Jai Acharyas Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, or Kripanidhi. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to those who couldn't make it. What's this one for? So is someone going to translate, or Yuleka? Translation? Okay, I'll just speak and then I'll just flow. I'll go slow. So you wanted kata, so I'll start with my favorite devotee of Lord Chaitanya. His name is Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das Goswami has been mentioned as the Rati Manjari in Krishna Lila. Rati Manjari, one of the most intimate Manjaris of Radharani. So Raghunath was born in this area. Oh. So are you going to translate while I speak, or do you want me to stop?
I can. If you speak a little slower, it will be perfect.
Okay, I'll speak slower. He lived near Shantipur, and it is said that his father, Govardhan Majumdar, and his uncle, Hiranya Majumdar, they were zamindars, they were landowners. Very wealthy, very wealthy guys. So Raghunath Das, he had the wealth of the King Indra. And his wife was as beautiful as the Apsara heavenly ladies.
You can do simultaneous if you speak slow. She can do simultaneous if
Okay, I
you
don't.
speak slowly.
So he used to live near the house of Advaitacharya, and Haridas Thakur, he was there was an attempt to discredit Haridas Thakur in Benapole, which is about an hour away from here, 2 hours. And after the fiasco with Ramachandra Khan, who tried to discredit him with a young prostitute, and then Maya Devi, she came along and took initiation from Haridas Thakur after testing him. She tested him and he kept chanting Hare Krishna. He moved to Shantipur and he lived in a cave. And so he would tell Raghunath Das all about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now on his way back from Vrindavan Mathura, Lord Chaitanya stopped in Shantipur and he met Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das was so absorbed in love for Lord Chaitanya that he just wanted to run away and go and live with Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Don't act like a crazy fellow." He said, externally you act like a pounds and shillings man, you deal with your father's businesses, deal with your family life, but internally, you're completely absorb yourself in the love of Radha and Krishna. So for a year, Raghunath Das was acting like a materialistic person, you know, and his father was very happy. But then, you know, he had no taste for material life. And he tried escaping, but every time he tried to escape, his father would have his guards catch him, bring him back home, and tried and tried, wasn't working out. So Raghunath Das's mother said, we should tie him with ropes. And Govardhan Majumdar, his father, said, he's already tied with the ropes of love for Lord Chaitanya. I mean, what material ropes can stop him? None. So, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitai Padakamalam Koti Chandra Susitala Hino Vini Nite Bai Radha Krishna Koitinai. If you want the mercy of Radha and Krishna, you have to receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So Raghunath Das, he walked to Panihati on the Ganges River, and there he saw Lord Nityananda sitting on a big rock, surrounded by all of his followers, who were cowherd boys in Dwapar Yuga. There was Dayananda, there was Murari Das, Gadadhar Das, many others, all cowherd boys, but now they're devotees, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So, the devotee of Lord Nityananda, he was sitting on the rock and he was glowing like millions of moons. And one devotee said, oh, there's Raghunath Das, he's offering obeisances from a far distance. Lord Nityananda, being very humorous, said, come here, Raghunath. And he got him close to him. He said, you're behaving like a thief. You're depriving me of your association. You're just like a thief. You're keeping your association. So then he put his lotus feet on the head of Raghunath Das. Lord Nityananda, the source of Sheshanag, the great Supreme Personality of Godhead, put his lotus feet on Raghunath Das's head. And he said in a joking way, as punishment, you have to throw a big chip rice festival. Feed all the Vaishnavas, all the local villagers, everyone must be fed, local Brahmins, local Vaishnavas. Start organizing the Chida Dadi Mahotsav. So Raghunath Das, the shopkeepers, heard about it. They came and they were selling yogurt, they were selling chip rice, and condensed milk, bananas, and these things were being prepared. And alongside Lord Nityananda, there was these large, huge pots where they were soaking all the chip rice, and more people were hearing. Before you knew it, there were thousands of Vaishnavas and Brahmins coming for this festival that Raghunath Das was sponsoring. So they soaked the chip rice, and then they got yogurt, and they soaked the chip rice with yogurt and honey and bananas and condensed milk and honey and bananas. And all the Vaishnavas came there, and they were sitting along the banks of the Ganges River, right over here, Ganga. And they were all in a good mood. There were so many devotees that some of them had to sit in the river. And Lord Chaitanya, he always comes where there's a big festival where Lord Nityananda is feasting. So Lord Chaitanya appeared invisibly, Aprakash. unmanifest. And Lord Nityananda would take the morsels of food from various Vaishnavas' pots, and he would feed Lord Chaitanya. And they were embracing each other, Nitai and Nimai. And then Nimai would take morsels of food from the Vaishnavas and stick it in the mouth of Lord Chaitanya. In this way they were enjoying the prasad. Very important. Prashadam, very, very important. One time Hari Sori's parents were in Australia. They came to visit Srila Prabhupada. And Hari Sori had gone on an assignment, on a task, on an errand. And he wasn't there, so the parents were waiting around. And then finally they had to leave. And Hari Sori finally showed up. And of course they met Prabhupada. And then they left. And Prabhupada said, did they get prasadam? And Hari Sori and the devotees said, oh no, we forgot. We're so sorry. And Prabhupada said, you wasted their time. You wasted there. He said, then what's the use? Everyone that visited Prabhupada, he made sure they got prasadam. So prasadam is extremely powerful. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a pastime with Kalidas. Kalidas was a high-class Brahmin living in this area. And he would eat the remnants of every single Vaishnava in Bengal. He would bring them prasadam and fruits, mangoes, and he'd leave it there. And after the Vaishnavas ate it, and they threw their leaf plates in the garbage area, Kalidas would sneak over there, and he would lick the plates. Thus, he became ecstatic by tasting the remnants of Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada also writes that, we should always organize nice prasadam for people, invite them. He said this is an exchange of love. Dadati pratigrinati goyamakti prichati. Exchanging prasadam, exchanging gifts. So we give prasad, and people give donations, and then we give them books. This is the Sankirtan movement. Narottam Das Thakur says that it's a wonderful movement that Lord Gauranga has given us. We simply chant, dance, and relish prasadam. And Kalidas was relishing the prasadam, and he was very careful. So when he prepared special, he would go and find the best fruits in Bengal, and he would give it to the pujari, and they would offer it. And it said that this prasadam, after Krishna accepted it, it would be mixed with Lord Krishna's saliva. So when we offer the prasadam to Radha Madhava and Panchatattva, it gets mixed with their saliva. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. By his Shakti, he's relishing the prasadam and leaving it there for us, mixed with his saliva. It's not ordinary stuff. So one time I was traveling with another devotee called Veda Vyas in Canada. This second time. A few years ago. And there's this area, it's all mountains and lakes. And a lot of young people, they travel across North America and they're hitchhiking. So there's about 100 of them. And they were squatting in some guy's farm. They just found the farm and the guy wasn't there, so they were living in the barn, These are young people, that's what they like to do. Travel around. So myself and a group of devotees were distributing Bhagavad Gitas there. This whole area is full of yoga people. They have bogus yogi people, they have Mayavadi yoga people, they have every kind of yoga. They have vegans. They have people who escaped from America into Canada, like in the 70s. And then they settled there. They didn't want to fight the Vietnam War. Now they have grandchildren. It's a pretty far out area. And it's known as the hippie, kind of a big hippie area. And lots of Buddhism as well. Lots and lots of Buddhism. Very cool area. So we're cooking prasadam, halava, sabji, chapatis. And these kids, they always smoke marijuana. So they were like, Hare Krishna, you guys, they're just making fun of us. And we're making prasadam, and they're blowing marijuana in our faces, Hare Krishna. Anyway, we offer the boga to Krishna. We had Gaurnitai deities. And they all got around, and we were telling them while we were cooking, you guys could try chanting Hare Krishna. And there was a devotee there playing harmonium, but they didn't want to chant. So we served them prasadam. And after they took prasadam, they all started chanting. We started a huge kirtan, and they were all like, okay, let's chant Hare Krishna. And they all started chanting, like the prasadam took them from the mode of ignorance right into the devotional service. And we had a huge kirtan with about 50 or 60 kids, and they loved it. So that's the power of prasadam. So here we have Lord Chaitanya in Panihati with Lord Nityananda, and Raghava Pandit shows up. Raghava Pandit has a house in Panihati, and his sister's name is Damayanti. And Damayanti used to send the prasadam to Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri every year when the Bengali devotees would travel to Puri for Rath Yatra. So Damayanti, it says that in Raghava Pandit's kitchen, Radharani resided there. Raghava Pandit and his sister were such wonderful cooks that it says that Radharani resided in their kitchen. So, Raghava Pandit, he invited Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nitai. He said, you're eating chip rice and yogurt and condensed milk now, but I prepared a feast for you at my house. Please come later on after you take rest. Come in later in the day. So then Raghava Pandit went to his house and made a big feast. So Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were in ecstasy. They left remnants for Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Das was given the remnants of Lord Chaitanya. So later on in the day, after the whole festival was complete, Lord Nityananda, he went over to the house of Raghava Pandit to relish the prasadam from the kitchen of Radharani, so to speak. And there was a kirtan started, and Lord Nityananda started dancing. And it says that wherever Lord Nityananda is dancing, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows up. He always goes where Lord Nityananda is dancing, where Mother Sachi is offering prasadam. Every day he would go to the house of his mother in his unmanifest form and take prasad of Mother Sachi. And he would appear wherever his pure devotees were offering prasad. Sometimes he would appear, like Nishingananda Brahmachari was also empowered by Lord Chaitanya. And sometimes Lord Chaitanya would appear there and he'd devour all the boga. Although Nishingananda was offering it to Lord Nishingadev, Lord Chaitanya would come and eat this prasadam. In this way, Nishingananda Brahmachari realized that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nishingadev heard Achinta Beda simultaneously one and different. So at the house of Raghava Pandit, Lord Nityananda was dancing so beautifully that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed up. And he was enjoying the dancing of Lord Nityananda, and he got some prasad there, although he was invisible. Some devotees, when Lord Chaitanya showed up, some of the devotees could see Lord Chaitanya and some could not. At the Panihati Chidadadi Mahotsav festival, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, aprakash form, invisible, but some devotees could see that he was there enjoying and having fun with Lord Nityananda. So these pastimes are very popular. So, Raghunath Das, he went to Raghava Pandit and consulted with him. He said, I want to give donations to all the devotees of Lord Nityananda, but don't tell Lord Nityananda. So he brought 100 gold coins and he gave it to Raghava Pandit, and Raghava Pandit distributed it. He also brought 5 ounces of gold, and he had it distributed depending on the seniority of each devotee. So this is going on. Raghunath Das arranged for these gold coins to be given to all the Vaishnavas and Brahmins who were the associates of Lord Nityananda. Again, Lord Nityananda met Raghunath Das at that time. He said, well, you've repaid your offenses of not coming close to me as a thief. He said, he put his foot again on Raghunath Das's head and he said, now you'll get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Don't be impatient. Very soon, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will bless you and you will be able to escape to Jagannath Puri. What was going on was, previous to this, Raghunath Das's uncle, Hiranya, he was supposed to be collecting 2 million gold coins a month, 2 million coins from the local people. He was collecting the tax money and giving it to the Muslim king. But there was a tax collector who was known as the Mohammedan Chowdhury, and Hiranya kind of bumped him off. He just kind of went over him, and he collected this money. He was only supposed to keep 500,000 gold coins, but he was keeping 800,000 gold coins. So he was stealing some of the tax money, and he was giving 1,200,000 gold coins to the government, to the Muslim government. So the Chaudhry knew this, and he decided, he called the ministers, and he said, this person's cheating you. And they said, yes, you should arrest him. So they went looking for Hiranya and Raghunath Das's father, Govardhan Majumdara. They couldn't find them, they were hiding out. So they grabbed Raghunath Das, the Chaudhry, Mohammedan Chaudhry. Chaudhry means like a treasurer, a tax collector. Threw him in the jail. Raghunath Das is very expert in diplomacy. And he started flattering the Mohammedan Chaudhry. My father and you are just like brothers. Sometimes brothers fight, but we can settle this matter. And so Mohammedan Chaudhry was feeling like, this is like my son, why am I putting him in jail? And so Raghunath Das softened up the Chaudhry. He said, I'm like your son. Why are you, And so the Chaudhry started crying and tears were flowing down his beard. He said, from this day I'll release you. But your uncle is less intelligent. You should go and talk to him. He's getting 800,000 gold coins extra, but he's not giving me any. Yeah, that's right. 800,000 is what he was getting, but he's not sharing it. So Raghunath Das went and he found his father and his uncle, and he mediated with the Chaudhry, and everything was settled. Everything was resolved. And then Raghunath was thinking, I got to get out of here. This is not for me. Too much pounds, shillings, too much money dealings. So when Raghunath Das came back from the Chidadadi Mahotsava, he stayed on the outside. There was an inner room and an outer room in the house of the Majumdaras. Raghunath Das refused to live on the inner chambers of a large home. So he's living on the outer chambers, and he would sleep near the Durga Mandap, the Durga altar. So Hiranya and Govardhan, his father and uncle, they would worship Durga so they could keep staying rich. Although they were known as friends of Vaishnavas, they weren't full Vaishnavas, they were friends of Vaishnavas. But Raghunath Das, he's actually a Manjari, come to associate with Lord Chaitanya. So, one night, his guru, Yadunanda Acharya, Nandana Acharya, he came to the house about 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, I have hired a pujari, but he didn't show up. So can you come with me and convince this pujari to come back to do his service? So as they were walking to the pujari's house, Raghunath Das saw the opportunity. Now I can escape because there's no guards around. The guards had let him go with his guru, Yadunanda Acharya, the family guru. And as they were walking, Raghunath Das said to his guru, oh, you just go home. It's very late. It's very late. You go and take rest. I'll go deal with the pujari. So Yadunanda Acharya went home, and Raghunath Das took the least traveled path through the forest, through the jungle, and he started moving towards Jagannath Puri, and he had his escape. So on the first day, that evening he ended up in a village, and he went to the cow herdsman, and he got some milk, and he slept in the cowshed. And next day he went further and further. Of course, by this time his father was frantically searching for him. And there were some devotees along with Shivananda Sena. They were all on their way to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra. So his father sent guards to go and apprehend him. But they caught up with them halfway to Jagannath Puri. Oh, Raghunath is not with us, just go back. So he sent the guards back. So it took Raghunath Das 12 days to walk to Jagannath Puri, and he'd only eaten 3 days out of 12. When he got there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put him under the care of Swarup Damodar. Now you're Raghunath of Swarup. Swarup Damodar is known to be Lalita Shaki, the most primary friend of Radharani. Lalita and Vishaka, two most friends. Lalita's more left-wing, more fiery, as is Radharani, very fiery. Vishaka's a little more demure, a little more mellow. Well, those are the two. Vishaka was born exactly the same time as Radharani, stated by Rupa Goswami. So Swarup Damodar is taking care of Raghunath Das, and he's renounced everything. It says that he left his life, his family life, just like someone passes stool in a pit and leaves it. So he left everything like stool, although he had the wealth of the king of heaven, Lord Indra, and his wife was very beautiful, like an apsara from the heavenly planets. Wasn't attached, left it all, boom, gone. I'm not recommending that for any of you young men yet. You have to go through householder life. But I'm just saying, that's what is stated by Krishnadas Kaviraj. So, he's in Puri, and he would stand near the Simadwara gate. It's the main gate going into see Lord Jagannath. Near the Garuda Stamba, there's a Simadwara gate. You stand there, and when the pilgrims were coming out, they would all give different sadhus some donation. So he was there, and after a while he thought, yeah, this is just like very commercial. I'm like a prostitute. I'm thinking, oh, this person's going to give me money, or maybe this person will give me, oh, this person gave me yesterday. It's agitating my mind. So he stopped doing that, and then he was taking prasad at a place where they distribute prasad to the sadhus. And then his father sent some of his servants with a Brahmin cook and lots of money to take care of Raghunath Das. So for about a year, Raghunath Das would invite Lord Chaitanya for prasadam, and he would just take enough Lakshmi from the servants, and the Brahmin would cook, and he'd feed Lord Chaitanya once in a month, once or twice. So Lord Chaitanya was observing Raghunath Das, and okay. After a while, Raghunath Das thought, I'm taking money from materialistic people. That's going to contaminate me. And then Bhakti Siddhanta mentions in the purport, Prabhupada quotes him, that we should be careful to when taking money from materialistic persons, because they feel some benefit. Oh, we're giving, charity. But their mentality is not correct. They still have some motives, and they can contaminate us. So then, in another place, Narottam Das Thakur says, the verse Asatsanga Tyag E Vaishnavachar, when we say Asatsanga, it automatically means Satsanga. It also means that Asat means you should associate only with devotees. So Asatsanga Tyag, give up the association with non-devotees, means it has a secondary, like a hidden meaning, only associate with devotees. So Raghunath Das decided to stop accepting charity from his father, and what happened was the shopkeepers would take prasadam from the Jagannath temple every day, and they would distribute it to pilgrims and get donations. And at the end of the day, they would take the rice that was left over, the throwaway rice, the wasted rice from their plates. Shopkeepers would just throw it in the gutter. Raghunath Das would go there and he'd collect this rice, which was so rotten that even the cows of Tailanga, it says, the cows of Tailanga, they were the local cows, they wouldn't even eat the rice in the gutter. Like we see cows out here eating garbage. So Raghunath Das would take the rice, wash it off, and that was all he would eat. And when Lord Chaitanya heard, he said, yes, my Raghunath, he is real. He's a real Vairagi. Yes. He's very pleased. He says, yes. Good that he's not taking money from his father. Raghunath Das, after 1 year, stopped taking charity from his father, stopped taking charity from local pilgrims. Now he's eating rotten rice. Swarup Damodar he got wind of this. He heard about this, and he went to Raghunath Das one day, and he snuck up and he grabbed some rice. He said, "You're eating Jagannath Prasad and you don't share?" He took some rice, and then he reported to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one day Lord Chaitanya went with Swarup Damodar, and they snuck up on Raghunath, and Raghunath was eating the rice that he'd washed off, the rotten rice, and Lord Chaitanya grabbed his hand. He took some and said, "You're feasting and you don't invite me? Where's your character?" He kept eating, and then Swarup said, That's enough, Gauranga, come on." That's too much. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, Raghunath Das became known as renunciation personified. It's mentioned there that Lord Chaitanya used his followers in different ways to teach us something. In some ways he used his followers to teach us about the more esoteric aspects of devotional service and how to perform devotional service. That would be Rupa Goswami. Raghunath Das, he was the epitome of renunciation. So teach us what it means to be renounced in devotional service, especially if you're a sannyasi. Because Raghunath Das, he became so renounced that he would only eat 2 drops of butter every day. And he would sleep a couple of hours, and he would chant 100,000 names of God every day. And he was the one who wrote the more elaborate pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He wrote notes, longer notes. Sri Damodar wrote short notes. Raghunath Das wrote the long notes describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and his ecstasies and what he was doing and so on and so forth with his devotees. So those notes were given to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Vrindavan. Once Lord Chaitanya left the planet, Raghunath Das traveled to Vrindavan, and he was feeling such separation that he was going to jump off the Govardhan Hill, give his life up. He couldn't handle separation from Lord Chaitanya. Rupa Goswami and Sanatan came. He said, "You can't take your life. You have to give the notes to Krishnadas. You have to write the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and give it to Krishnadas Kaviraj. You can't kill yourself. No way." They convinced Raghunath Das not to jump off Govardhan Hill. So Raghunath Das was commissioned by Rupa and Sanatan to excavate Radhakund Shyamakund. And they got some wealthy men. There was one wealthy man living in the Himalayas. Where was that place? One of the holy places in up in the Himalayas. Bhadravik Ashram? No. There's 3 different places there. One's Vaishnavi Devi, one's Bhadravik Ashram, and the other one. So this rich gentleman up there in the Himalayas, he got a dream. And in his dream, it said, "Give this money to your servant and go to Vrindavan and look for Raghunath Das. This money is to excavate Radha and Shyamakund." And Narayan appeared. Narayan appeared in his dream. And he said, "Raghunath Das will refuse the money. But tell him it is sent by Narayan himself." So the servant went there, and he certainly found Raghunath Das. And Raghunath Das, "I don't want any money. I don't want to touch money." But then he explained the dream that this rich man had. He accepted the money. And then he organized all the laborers to dig and make a nice rectangular kund for Radharani and a nice rectangular kund for Lord Shyamasundar, Shyamakund. That night, as Raghunath Das was sleeping, the Pandavas came to him in a dream. And they said, "Please don't cut down the trees around Shyamakund, because we are those trees. And we got the benediction that we will be here standing at Shyamakund, 5 trees, and we are the Pandavas, and we'll be here standing at Radhakund forever, for as long as time exists. So please do not chop down these trees." It's Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Sahadeva, and Nakula. Right? So Raghunath Das excavated Shyamakund, and if you go to Shyamakund, you'll see it's not rectangular. It's not square or rectangular, because it has to go around those trees. So this is Raghunath Das, renunciation personified. This is what he came to exemplify. If one renounces the world and receives the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he can become completely overwhelmed and deeply involved in the love of Radha and Krishna. And he wrote a few books. He wrote some books describing the love of Radha and Krishna. One of his books is Danakeli Chintamani. It's all about Krishna taxing the gopis. Dana means taxing. And there's places in Vrindavan you can go where many tax pastimes happen. Rupa Goswami wrote Danakeli Kamudi. Raghunath Das wrote Danakeli Chintamani. And Raghunath Das wrote many, many books about devotional service and about the most esoteric aspects of the love of Radha and Krishna and the gopis. And Narottam Das Thakur has a song wherein he says, when will I be able to enter into and appreciate the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Only by the mercy of Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda can this happen. Eno bine nite vai Radha Krishna paitinai. Maybe you can Bengali. Eno bine nite vai Radha Krishna paitinai. You cannot enter into the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna without getting the mercy of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Prabhupada used to tell us, wait. I'm going to prime up Prabhupada pastimes and then Sarvabhauma is going to tell us some Prabhupada Leela as well. Take your time. Ready? So we were young fellas when we met Prabhupada. We were what, 20? 20, I was 21 too. And so this was the beginning of the movement. Very, we had no properties. There was nothing in Mayapur, nothing in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was just telling us that the secret of advancement in spiritual life is to distribute my books, distribute a holy name like that, but to preach. And he was putting a huge emphasis on his books being distributed because he kept translating every night. He was translating Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavatam. He already had first canto, but then he was going into the second canto, and he said, the more I translate, the more you have to distribute. So there's a famous picture of devotees in San Francisco like this, and there was 30,000 people there. There was Richard John's mother was there. That famous picture, big. It was 72 or 73, and I was like, he was so amazed at all these people joining at that time. And this huge kirtan was happening. Actually, Agni Dev was there, and my temple president was there. He's a famous kirtaniya. His name's Baudak from Vancouver. And they were all both doing this huge kirtan, and then Prabhupada got up. He started dancing on the stage. There's a famous picture of that. I didn't go. It's the summer months, June, July, the best time for preaching and book distribution in North America. So we opted, we're going to just forego Rath Yatra Festival. We're going to go across the country, and they have what is called the folk festivals, farm festivals, and rodeos, where small towns, they have farms, and they have, in the summertime when the weather is nice, they have lots of festivals. People are really happy. Big rodeos, lots of cowboys in North America. Huge rodeos. Unfortunately, they like cows, but they also like to eat them. So we're traveling, distributing books, and I missed out Rath Yatra, but that's the famous Rath Yatra. Krishna Janan Maharaj was there, and most of the devotees on the west side of America, as well as in Canada, as well as they would drive right across the continent to see Prabhupada at Rath Yatra. Now, after San Francisco Rath Yatra was finished, very, very successful, Prabhupada knew that there's this one devotee, his name's Jayananda. Jayananda, he wasn't really a hippie. He was kind of, I don't know, maybe he had some education and then he was driving cab, but he joined the movement and he was older than us. We were 20, 21, Jayananda was maybe 30, 35, and we thought, oh, this is an old guy. We didn't trust anyone over 21. That was our philosophy. But Jayananda had actually organized the entire Rath Yatra festival. He would go to different shops and beg for rice, sugar. He said we're feeding thousands of people. And he would cultivate people. People loved Jayananda, and they just give him, wheat and rice and everything. And then, of course, the devotees had to fix the cart. They had to build it and repair it, Big Rath Yatra cart going down, the Lions, what's the name of the park there? Lionsgate Park? San Francisco Park. Golden Gate Park, sorry. So there was this one guy, he's a very big book distributor in America still. He's 71 now. His name is Vijitama. He's a dedicated book distributor. He's not the biggest one, but he's very dedicated. So he was one of the secretaries of a bogus yogi called Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was considered the guru of the Beatles. But he was a complete Mayavadi. I read his Gita, and he only translated the first 6 chapters. It was all about Brahman and the mind and keeping the minds. But he was very popular. Vijitama bought a mantra from this guy. Like, I was going to the Maharishi Yogi meetings, and these guys, they dressed up in suits, and I was like a hippie. I was like, you guys are bogus. They're with the, corporates. So I didn't buy into it, but a lot of the hippies and my friends, they would pay for a mantra, $250. And the mantra would be, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I figured out this guy was bogus. And he was a multi-millionaire. Selling mantras. And he actually brought the Beatles to Hardware Rishikesh with the Beatles. But the Beatles found out he was bogus because he approached one of the movie stars the Beatles were with, Frank Sinatra's ex-wife. And then she married a guy, Woody Harrelson. Anyway, there was a movie star there, and Maharishi Yogi approached her in the middle of the night. And she went and told the Beatles, and the Beatles said, "Bye, you're bogus." So they left Maharishi Yogi and they went back to America, to England, wherever they went. Went back home. They completely disillusioned with Maharishi Yogi. But George Harrison, of course, they had heard about Hare Krishna mantra, and George Harrison would love to chant it. And John Lennon also, they would go in the Mediterranean Sea, and they would just play these little banjos, and they would chant Hare Krishna for like non-stop till their jaws hurt. So they were into this mantra and all the Indian stuff. Anyway, Vijitama, he was doing this mantra, and it was actually making his mind go crazy. Because besides that, they started telling him you should don't eat white flour, don't eat white sugar, don't eat this, and he was like on a crazy diet. And he was going a little crazy. So he went to Golden Gate Bridge, and he said, I might as well just kill myself. But the one thing Maharishi Yogi told him before he left, Vijitama said, Maharishi, are you a real yogi? Are you a real Swami? And the Maharishi said, no, I'm not a real Swami. If you want to meet a real Swami, you should go and look up Bhaktivedanta Swami. He's a real Swami. So at least he was honest. So Vijitama was at Golden Gate Park, on the bridge actually. And he was about to jump, and then he remembered, oh, maybe I should check out the Hare Krishnas before I end my life. So he went to the temple on Valencia, kind of like near the downtown of San Francisco. And he knocked on the door, and Jayananda opened the door. And Jayananda said, and he said, oh, do you guys teach yoga and meditation? And Jayananda, yeah, come on in. Brought him in, he got a big bowl of halava. And he said, here, do some yoga. This is yoga food. And Vijitama ate all the halava, and he was like in ecstasy. And And then Jayananda convinced him to stay over and attend the Rath Yatra festival. So Jayananda organized this Rath Yatra festival in San Francisco. The devotees were coming in from all over the place, San Francisco airport. And so after the festival, it was very successful. At least 30,000 people, all Americans. At this time, there were no Indians so much in America. And they all came in to see Prabhupada. He was sitting there in the temple, and different devotees were coming to see him, all his leaders, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Satsvarupa Maharaj, and Hridayananda Maharaj, and all these. And Prabhupada was looking around, and he said, "Where is my Jayananda?" And he said, "Prabhupada, he's still at the park, and he's cleaning up all the garbage." Prabhupada said, "Yes, he's a very special devotee." So Jayananda was going around after the festival, and no one, maybe he had a crew, I don't know, but most devotees like, "Yeah, festival's over, let's go back to the temple." And he was out there, pitch black night, and he was picking up all the litter, all the garbage, all the plates, cups, all the junk, spick and span, left it clean. Prabhupada said, yes, he's a special devotee. So he really loved Jayananda for being, he became known as Mr. Rath Yatra. And if you go to the Jagannath temple here, there's a memorial to Jayananda. So when I was in San Francisco, he liked I was a young brahmachari, and we used to go out in San Francisco, and we'd all wear garlands, and we'd make prasadam, peanuts and raisins. And we had like a train of maybe like 15 devotees in two aisles, lines of devotees. We just go like through all the tourist area in San Francisco chanting Hare Krishna, giving out peanut prasadam. And so Jayananda came up to me and says, "Why don't you stay in San Francisco, Kripanidhi?" Prabhupada said we should do books. So I was very committed to distributing Prabhupada's books, and we were traveling around. And maybe I should have stayed in San Francisco. But anyway, I said, "Sorry, I'm doing books. Prabhupada wants to do big books," so we kept going. We went all over the States doing books. So anyway, whatever your nature is, whether it's kirtan, distributing the holy name, distributing prasadam, it's all part of a cake. The cake, first you do water with flour, then you put in the sugar. You don't put the icing in the beginning. So similarly, everyone has their guna and karma, and Prabhupada would engage us properly in our guna and karma. Vishnu Janan Maharaj, he was very soft and sweet and loving. He was just like a big Glubjaman. And he would just travel around chanting Hare Krishna and inspiring devotees. And Prabhupada would write him letters like, "My dear son, Vishnu Janan, your kirtans are so wonderful that I go into ecstasy when I hear them." That's the letters he would write Vishnu Janan. He loved Vishnu Janan. Vishnu Janan would just go out and play for hours in the streets, and people would love him. They'd flock around him. And then he'd go on the campuses, UCLA, Berkeley, UCLA, LA. And boy, just by his playing and chanting, people would join in those days. And so there was a Radha Damodar party formed with big buses, Greyhound buses, and traveling around the States. So that was Vishnu Janan, another very dear devotee of Srila Prabhupada's. And he'd always encourage us. Because we were young brahmacharis, we tended to eat a lot, especially on Sunday, because during the week they would serve like real simple prasad. Okay, khichdi in the morning, khichdi in the afternoon, khichdi in the evening. But on Sunday, because people were coming, we got hundreds of hippies, young people coming. There'd be halaba, sweet rice, rasmalai, rasgullas, burfi, 2 sabjis and ghee, like super opulent prasad, plus a nectar, buttermilk and orange juice nectar. So we'd all like be waiting, And And you see all the brahmacharis. He was crushing the prasad. So Vishwajan used to tell us, the secret is, you eat a full plate of prasad, then you go take an ice cold shower. And then you'll be able to eat another big plate. He gives us all this far out advice. Anyway, that was the story about the, in the early days, San Francisco Rath Yatra. And actually, the mayor of San Francisco, he made an official Rath Yatra day for the devotees. Every year they have Rath Yatra day in San Francisco. San Francisco was the hub of the hippie movement. Thousands of kids from all over the place were there, dropping out of society, dropping in, trying out some LSD, marijuana, and so they were rejecting the materialistic lifestyle, but they didn't have a positive alternative. So Prabhupada came, he said, you don't need LSD. He said, Krishna is giving you LSD. It's like a chemical because you want to realize God. He said LSD is giving it to God in a chemical form. But he says, I'm giving you real Krishna in the real spiritual form. And they used to have a saying, stay high forever, chant Hare Krishna. Any stories come to mind? So, yeah. Time's up. Okay. That's it, folks. Any comments or questions?
Prabhuji, anybody from Beatles ever got initiated?
Actually, George Harrison, he asked Prabhupada, should I get initiated? Prabhupada said, you're already the son of Hari's son. He didn't initiate him because Prabhupada could see that sometimes George was struggling with intoxication. And he was associating with all these big musicians, like Eric Clapton was his best friend, and they were really into hard drugs, heroin, and like that. But they were good friends. And he would continue making music, and a lot of times he'd have his friends coming over to his studios and things, and they pull out the drugs and they pull out the marijuana. So for some reason Prabhupada said, just do what you're doing. You don't have to shave up. Just carry on making songs about Krishna. And George Harrison, of course, as gradually he became more advanced. And when he left his body, according to Shama Sundar, he was very advanced. And he died in Los Angeles. And he was surrounded by devotees like Mukunda, Shama Sundar. Shama Sundar was his close friend. And they said that when George Harrison's soul left his body, the whole room lit up. So George Harrison, I used to listen to his music way before I became a devotee. And we were all a bunch of hippie kids, and we would be in someone's house, partying, having party, and they turn on this album. It's a double album. All Things Was Past, My Sweet Lord, all kinds of stuff about karma, reincarnation, and we just listened to stuff. And out of our group, north of Toronto, 2 of us joined. The guy that joined, he joined before me. I forget his name now, but he joined and I joined. And then Ganapati Maharaj, he's from Canada, but he's been living in America for 50 years. He joined just after me, and actually he's Ukrainian background. And he was going to university, and he listened to George Harrison constantly. A lot of these people young people were listening to George Harrison and trying out LSD because it would expand your mind, You feel like you're part of the universe and all this stuff. So Ganapati joined. His name was Eugene Bilek, which is probably, if anyone here from Ukraine, it's a pretty Ukrainian name. Eugene Bilek. Never heard of it. Okay. Bilek. Eugene is very anyway. He grew up in a very strict Christian family, But he couldn't understand why they all drank alcohol. Those people in that Orthodox Ukrainian family, they had Orthodox churches there. They drank heavy. They all drank very heavy, and they eat lots of meat because they're all like farmers, and they'd have cows, and they grew grains, they grew wheat. And he was always wondering, like, something's wrong, you know. So even when he joined, like, if anytime he met Christians, he'd like chastise them. He said, "You're not following Jesus," because he knew the Bible quite well. He said, "You're not following Jesus." A bunch of hypocrites. And he would do it in such a way that they would listen to what he had to say. And when he joined, he had a wife and a child, but he was only 21. And his wife agreed that he could give up family life. And he's been a sannyasi forever. And he travels around the States, and he only does college on college campuses. He sets up books, and they do kirtan, and they distribute books. He's been doing that since the 70s. And Ganapati Maharaj, very humble devotee. No one even knows much about him. Very quiet, you know. So we would drive down to LA to meet Prabhupada. You just drive straight down the highway, I-5, there's Alaska, Canada, Washington State, Oregon State, California, Mexico. So there's this highway that goes all the way through. So we just get in a van with about 18, 20 devotees in a van. We drive down the highway to see Prabhupada. Took 20 hours driving. But we were young, we didn't care. 20. From Vancouver, Canada, which is on the other side of the border. And then we'd see Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would go on morning walks, and we were invited to go on morning walks with him, and he'd always talk about the scientists. So we're all like young guys, and we're really very, extremely enthusiastic. People couldn't escape us in the street. They were trying to escape, but we'd make sure they got a book. You know, Bhakti Yoga, pretty powerful. Bunch of young guys, young women too, just like overwhelming people in the street. Take this book, Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada was very happy, you know. By the 73, so many young people were joining. Temples are filling up. We're buying properties. Then we started buying Christian churches. We bought a huge church in Los Angeles is a church. Was Berkeley a church? Maybe. I think there was a church in Berkeley at one time. The church in Toronto was a famous church. It was made of stone, huge thing, and the Christians couldn't afford it, and they didn't want to sell it to Hare Krishnas. And there's a whole story behind this thing. Because Prabhupada said, "It's too expensive, don't buy it." But then finally said, "You're buying anxiety, it's too expensive." Big stone church, all stone, the whole thing is stone. And just to maintain it is expensive, the roof and everything, you have to keep fixing the roof on it. Prabhupada said, "Oh no, too much anxiety, don't buy it." It was up for sale. Middle of the city, Toronto, very big city. And when he came back after traveling, he came back to Toronto, and he called in my godbrother, Uttama Shloka, and he said, "So, what about this church?" And Uttama says, "Prabhupada, you keep telling me, don't buy anxiety, don't buy anxiety." Prabhupada smashed the desk. He goes, "We must take anxiety for Krishna. We must take anxiety for Krishna." So he said, "Buy the church." And the Christians,
they were suspicious that we were Hare Krishnas and they didn't want to sell it to us.
So they're all dressed up in suits and ties, went to sign. And what had happened was devotees first went in dhotis to look at it. And so they knew that Hare Krishnas were interested. But then the next time was different devotees came and they had wigs on, suits and ties, looked like corporate people. And so the Christians, they thought, oh, okay. And they were anxious to sell it. It was just a real burden for them. So as soon as they signed it on the dotted line, they signed the contract and agreement, and the deed was given. The devotees took their wigs off and they went, Hare Krishna, Krishna. The Christians were like, they're so angry. Too late, we got the church. Prabhupada was very happy. Hey boy. Everyone hungry? Everyone happy? Is everyone happy? Haribol! Haribol!